Hello all, welcome to the new Simply Put series by Kalamai's Academy. This is Priyanka Mahapatra, faculty at Kalamai's. So today we'll be having a discussion on the newspaper dated 5th of February 2024. So the important article which appeared today is about the Uniform Civil Code. We would be discussing about the Uniform Civil Code in detail. Why this is in news? Because recently the Uttarakhand Assembly it is likely to pass the state's Uniform Civil Code bill during its 4-day long session in the month of February. And this has come into limelight after the BJP's electoral victory in the state of Uttarakhand in the month of May in 2023. And then the Uttarakhand government announced the constitution of a 5-member committee led by the former Supreme Court judge Justice Ranjana Prakash Desai to draft the legislation. So here comes the importance of understanding the Uniform Civil Code in all manners from our exam point of view. Okay, so what does a UCC mean? What does the UCC aim to do? What is the meaning of UCC is the first question. So the UCC aims to bring uniform set of laws and that will be replacing our fragmented personal laws. Today we are having fragmented and very distinct personal laws of every religion. But this UCC will bring uniformity. It will bring a single law which will be applicable to all citizens of every religion pertaining to subjects like marriage, divorce, adoption and inheritance. And this is stemming from our DPSP in the Constitution, that is Article 44 of the Constitution, which lays down that state shall endeavour to secure for the citizens a uniform civil code throughout the territory of India. But this DPSP being non-justiciable part of the Constitution, this has not been implemented so far because of various reasons that we would be discussing in the further slides. Okay, but this has some fundamental role in the governance of our nation, the DPS. First, we will understand the governance of personal laws in India. So what is the governance of personal laws in India so far? So after the commencement of the Constitution, the Hindu personal law, it was codified into 4 acts. So some efforts were taken in codifying the Hindu personal law in the form of Hindu Marriage Act, in the form of Hindu Succession Act, in the form of Hindu Minority and the Guardianship Act, and in the form of Hindu Adoption and the Maintenance Act. But the Muslim personal law is not yet codified so far, and it is based on the religious text. Similarly, in the case of Northeast, we all know that the Constitution protects their local customs. For example, in the case of Nagaland, Meghalaya and Mizoram. But Goa is the only state in India which has the Uniform Civil Code. So this Portuguese Civil Code of 1867 is still being implemented even after the India annexed Goa in 1961. So even after Goa being a part of India after 1961, Portuguese Civil Code of 1867, which brings the Uniform Civil Code in the state of Goa, is still being implemented. But this is not a uniform civil code in real sense. Okay, it is not a completely uniform civil code. For example, Hindu men, they are being allowed bigamy if the wife is failing to deliver a child by 25 and if the wife is failing to deliver a male child by 30. Okay, so it is not a uniform civil code per se. So let's now understand that what was going in the minds of the framers of the Constitution then. What was the debate that was happening in the Constituent Assembly when this Uniform Civil Code was in front of the framers of the Constitution? So we would be taking both the sides, we would be understanding both the sides. So first is that why it was not kept under the fundamental rights. Let's understand the viewpoints. So some kind of fear was there in the Muslim members of the Constituent Assembly that their rights would be diluted. The religious minorities in India, they will be facing vulnerable situation, their rights would be diluted and hence the India's diversity and the plurality will be destroyed. But again, it was settled by 5:4 majority vote that UCC should not fall within the scope of the fundamental rights. Okay. In fact, here, Subcommittee on Fundamental Rights headed by Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, he decided after settling with the 5:4 majority vote that UCC should not fall within the scope of fundamental rights. Even members like Naziruddin Ahmad from Bengal, he said that it will infringe our Article 25. So what is Article 25? It is a fundamental right to freedom of religion subject to reasonable restrictions like public order, morality and health. And basically, the Muslim members said that it requires the implementation of UCC requires the consent of the concerned communities. Okay, so these were the viewpoints of the members of the Constituent Assembly then. Then let's see the opposite viewpoint where the members of the Constituent Assembly, some members of the Constituent Assembly were in favor of bringing the UCC under the fundamental rights. So here member K. Munshi said that the state is all empowered to make laws related to religious practices if it is concerned to bring social reform. Okay, if it is concerned to bring the benefit to the society, the well-being of the society. So it will not defeat the freedom of religion in that sense, in that situation where we are thinking, where we are intending to bring social reform. In fact, eliminating the discriminatory practices, preventing the discriminatory practices among the distinct personal laws, it will promote equality for the woman. And leaders like K.T. Shah and Rajkumari Amrit Kaur, they said that UCC will lead to unity and integrity of the nation. So these were the viewpoints of the other side. Then we would be discussing everything in detail about the need for bringing UCC and what are the challenges and what are the arguments against the implementation of UCC in India. So first is that it will simplify the complex laws around the marriage, around inheritance, around succession, around adoption, because it seeks to bring a single law which will be applicable to all the citizens. And therefore, it will simplify the adjudication of the cases because it will reduce the conflict and the contradiction seen with respect to Article 14, 15, 25, 26. So hence, it's an advantage to bring UCC in India. But here, Indian laws, they are already following uniform code in most of the civil matters. For example, Indian Contract Act, Code of Civil Procedure, Evidence Act, and in certain matters, we have given a leeway, we have allowed certain diversity to be there within those secular civil laws. So why can't these diverse or distinct features remain with the personal laws as well? Again, coming to the legislative power of the parliament, here the Supreme Court has repeatedly favored the UCC implementation in India. But it has refused to issue any directive to the government since the lawmaking falls within the exclusive domain of the lawmaking bodies like parliament and state legislature. In cases like Muhammad Ahmad Khan versus Sahabanu, 1985, Sallah Mugdal versus Union of India in 1995, repeatedly observations have been made that when personal laws are codified for 80% of the population, that is the Hindu population, through the Hindu codification laws, Hindu codified laws, then why not for the other 20%? So there is no rationality to leave out the Jews, the Muslims, etc. Okay, so they have favored bringing UCC in India. But here, the challenge is, the argument against is that the parliament does not have the exclusive jurisdiction over the personal laws because personal laws, they are mentioned under the concurrent list. So we need to take the account, the consideration of the states as well. Then we will be discussing about the country's diversity. Here UCC, it will promote the national integration because different laws, when we have different laws for different religious groups, it will breed communal violence, it will breed communalism, it will breed differences. But when we have singular secular law, in case of UCC, then it will bring a sense of oneness, sense of fraternity, brotherhood. But here the challenge is that India is a diverse country and it is very difficult to bring uniformity of the personal laws in a diverse country like India. And bringing UCC, it will be against the pluralism and diversity of India. Again, there is lack of education awareness among the citizens of India with respect to the implementation of UCC. There is still a poor consensus among the citizens of India with respect to implementation of the UCC. It is still a very politically sensitive issue. Still, it has been taken as Hindu versus Muslim due to lack of education awareness among the citizens of India. Okay, it has been seen as only Hindu versus Muslim. But we have seen already that there are starking differences in the personal laws of various other religions also. For example, Jews, Christians. Then we come to the debate around the fundamental rights. Here UCC, it will help us attain the gender justice. It will help us preserve the right to life, liberty and dignity under Article 21. It will eliminate the patriarchal notion, the stereotypical notions, because the discriminatory practices will be eliminated. For example, in the case of triple talaq case, where talaq-e-bidat was unconstitutional, was regarded as unconstitutional in Shara Banu versus Union of India case in 2017. Again, we have also legalized the single parenthood. We have legalized the live-in relationship. And this is also concerned with the UCC because UCC will be also dealing with the adoption laws. Again, under SR Bommai versus Union of India case, it says that religion and secularism, religion and personal law, they are very different from each other. We should not mix. Religion is a matter of individual faith and it cannot be mixed with the secular activities, and hence the state has all the right in order to preserve, in order to bring the secularism in our country for the way of bringing social reform in the society. But on the other side, it is said that it violates the Article 25. It violates the individual's fundamental right to religion. Again, it violates Article 26b as well, where right to each religious denomination to manage its own affairs in the matter of religion. It is guaranteed under the Constitution. Again, it will violate Article 29, where right to conserve its distinctive culture, it is given to the minorities. Okay, so this is all about, again, reiterating the Supreme Court viewpoint, where it has favored the implementation of UCC. It has deliberated upon the UCC in several judgments and it has favored, but it has refused to issue any directive to the government since the lawmaking falls under the exclusive domain of the parliament and the lawmaking bodies. In Shah Banu Begum case, in Sharla Mugdal versus Union of India 1995, in John Valamatom versus Union of India 2003 case, where it has said that it is a matter of regret that Article 44 has remained a dead letter and called for its implementation. And in Jose Paulo Coutinho versus Maria Luisa Valentina Pereira judgment, it has hailed Goa as a shining example where UCC is applicable to all. And hence it has said that all other states must take the example of Goa to implement the UCC in their respective states. Then we come to the viewpoint of Law Commission with respect to Uniform Civil Code, where the 21st Law Commission headed by former Supreme Court Judge Justice Balbir Singh Chauhan has observed that the formulation of UCC is neither necessary nor desirable at this stage. But we should be making efforts towards preventing or eliminating the discriminatory practices and stereotypes within the existing personal laws through amendments. Like most of the countries, it is important to understand, recognize the differences. And mere existence of difference does not mean discrimination, but indicative of a robust democracy. So here it is regarding the plurality, the diversity of a country like India. But we should be eliminating the discriminatory practices. That is why it is said that unified nation does not necessarily need uniformity. We did not need uniformity of laws in order to bring a unified nation. For unified nation, we need to eliminate the discriminatory practices. We need to eliminate the stereotypes. For example, in case of marriage, we can bring compulsory registration. We can have a uniform age of consent for marriage. We can have community of property upon marriage and divorce. We can also delete the 30-day notice period that is there under Special Marriage Act 1954. Under other personal laws, we can also make amendments. For example, under Muslim personal law, we can codify the inheritance law that applies to both the sects. Adultery should be also introduced as a ground for divorce under Dissolution of Marriage, Muslim Marriage Act 1939. For Christians, under Christian personal law, before divorce, a 2-year separation period is there. That is to be deleted. Why a 2-year separation period should be there if at all somebody is wanting a separation? So we should be eliminating these discriminatory practices among all the religions. For example, in Parsi personal law, the ostracization on marriage with outsider should be declared null and void. Right? So this is how we should be bringing changes to the existing personal laws in order to be consistent with the UCC. Again, coming to the way ahead, we should be cautiously awaiting to see the outcome of the exercises taken by the individual states like Uttarakhand for this matter. Awareness and education should be developed before the law is actually introduced in the parliament and state legislature. And the implementation, it should be done very gradually. Since the provision was merely recommendatory under the UCC, it should not be imposed upon all the citizens, as our Prime Minister Narendra Modi also seconds it. Then according to B.R. Ambedkar, we need the whole consensus of the people in order to implement the UCC. So therefore, in the words of B.R. Ambedkar in the Constituent Assembly debate 1948, he says that it is perfectly possible that the future parliament may make a provision by way of making a beginning that the code shall apply only to those who make a declaration that they are prepared to be bound by it, so that in the initial stage the application of the code may be purely voluntary. That means it is emphasizing, B.R. Ambedkar emphasized upon the consensus of the people, okay, and the gradual implementation of the UCC. So this is how you should be ending your answer. Everything we have discussed, what is the need for bringing UCC, what was in the mind of the framers of the constitution, both the sides of the debate we have discussed. What are the challenges, what are the arguments against bringing the UCC in India? And also we have taken up the views of Supreme Court in various judgments, various cases. We have also discussed the viewpoint of Law Commission. Then we have also discussed what is the way ahead about the education awareness and about the saying of B.R. Ambedkar as the concluding remark. Okay, so thank you so much, and the short notes of this video discussion will be provided to you in our Telegram channel, that is Kalam IAS Academy. The link for joining our channel will be provided in the description box. Do join us for all the important posts and update.